This is a short presentation demo of how widgets work. We recently released widgets for Permapages, and we are super excited about enabling developers to build small little experiments in the Web3 ecosystem using widgets. So with this workshop, I wanted to just kind of deep dive on the technical bits of widgets and give you some background on how they work so you have a better understanding of how you can apply those in your development journey. So we'll cover what is a widget, what is a permapage, and kind of the environment from a technical perspective. Then how to register it. We'll go go through that bit by bit so you understand all the pieces, and then show a widget in action on permapages. So hopefully this all makes sense, and if you have any questions, please reach out in either the comments or in Discord, and we'll be happy to answer them. So what is a widget? A widget is a collection of code that interacts with HTML and the browser to create rich collaborative functionality for visitors of the page. So basically what that means is a widget is simply a single JavaScript file that's ESM compliant. So when Permapages imports the code, it uses type module. And the reason it does that is that you could actually write, web compliant import statements in your code. So you could, connect to other modules from a CDN or preferably the PermaWeb. And then when it's published on the PermaWeb, so one of the constraints is that the code needs to be published on the PermaWeb, and it has descriptive tags for discoverability. So you set these tags, and then it will register into the permapage editor for users to drop on their page. So that's pretty much a widget. Now, the second part of this is what is a permapage, and it's just a web page, but from your perspective as a developer, it's actually an atomic NFT. It has a smart contract, and it is got HTML combined together with one single identifier, and it lives on the permaweb. Now, with permapages, there's a specific environment that you can take advantage of, especially in terms of look and feel. If you want your widget to match other elements on the page, look and feel, the environment includes Tailwind CSS. So you can not have to worry about embedding CSS or uploading an additional file of CSS. You can just use Tailwind and actually use commands in the class attribute of your markup and tweak how you want your look to be. Also, Daisy UI. Daisy UI is an open source component CSS framework that sits on top of Tailwind CSS. And if we go to Daisy UI for a minute, basically Tailwind is atomic CSS, so it has kind of the CSS actions as classes. And then what Daisy does is it gives you a more component view of CSS on top of Tailwind. So for example, if you wanted to create an avatar, you basically have these class names to define your avatar, and you get your HTML. So literally copying this HTML and then adding the image for your avatar, and you have a basic avatar. And then it goes through several variations where you can use the tags or attributes in HTML to control the look and feel for that. And it has a pretty completed tool set for components. You have buttons, modals, cards, carousel, nav bar, text areas, form stuff, and all of that. So it's really easy to use, especially with a modern framework. You can toggle things on and off, and then just add the class names where you need to change your look and feel. So it's pretty cool. It's worth taking a look at, and it's not a lot to understand. It's very easy to learn. Cool. So that's Daisy UI, and then Arweave and Warp. Arweave is the SDK to query, publish things on the permaweb, and then Warp is the smart contract SDK that allows you to interact with contracts on Arweave, and it's very fast. So the way Arweave contracts work is that you publish the source and then the contract state on the weave. Then when you make a change, a action is generated on the weave, which is just another transaction or data entry. And then when you evaluate your contract, it actually pulls the contract source, the initial state, and all the actions, and it replays all the actions to calculate the current state. And Warp makes this extremely fast, and they're constantly improving that. So it's a great library to use to work with smart contracts. So that's Permapages from a technical standpoint, and then widget registration. So what I want to go over, and again, basically, when you register your widget, you're uploading your JavaScript of your widget onto the permaweb, and you can do that with create transaction, sign, and post using the Arweave SDK, or you can use bundler client. And with our template, we kind of set it up for bundler client, because if it's 100K, you don't have to pay AR. So that's kind of cool. So I've got the template pulled up in Visual Studio Code here, and just to give you an example, here's the counter example. And one thing to note with widgets, when they're placed on the pages right now, they're just placed on the right hand column. So there'll be content in the left to middle, and then on the right column would be all the widgets listed vertically. So you may want to think about that when you size your widget. In this example here, we kind of just have a simple widget here that it's a nice counter, super cool. But that's something to consider. So I recommend kind of taking a look at this template and maybe getting some ideas from that. And also, because of Daisy UI, it's using background primary, text primary content. These will change as users change themes. So whenever a theme is changed, then it will change the background. So you may want to look at using that so that your look and feel is consistent based on the theme that the user's using. Okay, so on to deploying. Deploying is probably one of the most confusing parts of this process, and I just wanted to spend some time to go through it. And in our template, we have this deploy JS file, and we import bundler, and then we have a wallet. So when you type yarn deploy, you enter in your wallet file, and then it pulls that up and it connects to bundler's node 2 network. And it's super exciting with bundler releasing their test net, but eventually bundler will be decentralized fully, and we'll be able to choose what nodes we want to connect to. And then here's the most important part is the tags. So it's important to set the content type to application JavaScript. The app name and app version, these need to be set exactly how they are. And then this is where you change your component, because this is how it's going to show in the Permapage editor. So the widget ID is the actual element ID that you want to be referenced for your widget when it's injected in the page. To show that, for example, is I'm going to point to two places in this project. One is main.js. So main.js looks at an element to attach the code to. So whatever this ID is needs to be the same ID that you register. And then in the example, this index HTML is like what a typical permapage HTML may look like. And you'll see here that it'll inject a div with that ID. And that ID is whatever ID you set in your deploy. And then it'll inject the script as well. So hopefully that gives you an example of how important the widget ID is. It's like it's the glue that connects your script to the HTML component and to the registry, so it knows what to call what when it builds that HTML file. And then the widget name is what shows as the description in the widget list of the Permapage editor. Widget description shows a little longer description. And then widget docs will be a link to your documentation so that users can, kind of click on that to find out more about your widget. Cool. And then with Bundler, we create the transaction and sign it, and then we upload it. So Bundler, does the same steps as Arweave. The nice thing about Bundler is it's an L2, so it's faster. It can do more transactions than the layer 1. As well as you get, if it's under 100